Hi everybody, welcome to Control Alt and Compete. Today we're joined by Maurizio Sciglio.
Yes, great.
Is that good?
Yep.
Yeah, just learned that. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Fine, thank you. If I was to say, Maurizio, would you say you're a software developer? If you had to put down, somebody asked you what you do for a job, is that what you say you are? Or you were?
That's my background, I suppose. Yeah, like I'm an engineer, always be an engineer, yes.
And how did you get into that then?
Passion, like since I was, I don't know, 12 maybe. I got my first computer and started playing with it, but I was always obsessed, I would say, by the technology behind it. So just went through like the whole journey, like learning programming languages, and then building stuff. But that was pretty much a vocation. I wouldn't say that it was a choice. It just happened to me.
But what were you playing? What gave you the tools to start doing that? Because most kids will just play it and never think anything of it. Like,
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, like, that was back in kind of a Commodore 64, Amiga days, and so I don't know. Just why I felt attracted to it.
but how did you teach? So I always find nowadays people can go on YouTube and they could find out anything they want, right?
Yeah.
Rather than you playing, there was games like Dizzy Egg and things like that. Did you play that?
No.
No, right, well maybe the Spectrum, maybe that was. But what made you think about getting involved in that part of it? Was it easy to find or?
No, definitely not. Back in the day, that was before the internet was a thing. So either books, like programming languages, you go to the library, buy a book. Like there were some like really good books about that. But beyond that, BBS. Remember what's the name? Like bulletin systems.
Okay, yeah.
The dial-in BBS, where
Yeah.
you just with your like modem. You were still your mum's like landline.
And if somebody was on the phone, you couldn't do it.
Mum, yeah. And then you would find resources like tutorials and information, but that was the closest you could get to today's internet.
And we're just finding, you just said to me you're born in Rome, so was that when you were in Rome, when you were?
No, I was in Sicily already at that point. So I basically spent 6 years of my life in Rome. Then my family, who were originally from Sicily, moved back there. And that's where I grew up. And then I stayed there until uni. I did computer engineering again, like after realizing that computer technology, computer gaming was my thing. I tried to find the best journey to get there. So I did computer engineering, and then just after the degree, I moved to Scotland, moved to Dundee.
And so was Dundee always on the radar then?
Not really, no. So after uni, I started looking at options.
Yep.
I took 6 months off just to put together a portfolio. Like I was very much into 3D programming back then. So I felt like I needed something demonstrable, something like a little demo. So I spent 6 months just putting together some demos, and at the same time started looking around. And the UK was kind of the obvious choice. And after looking around, I found a few job opportunities, one of which in Dundee.
Was that with APB?
That was, like real-time worlds, yes, exactly. So that was Dave Jones. That time, new company, got a job interview. Like it was a very cold February.
Yeah.
Came from warm Sicily to freezing Dundee. And they offered me a job and I went back.
Yeah. I remember I was back in, would that have been about 2008, 2009?
No, that was 2004.
2004, right? So when would I have had a shot? Because I actually signed up to be a tester on APB.
All right, yeah.
Right, and I managed to get I don't know how I managed. I was mostly a console gamer, but I, for some reason, got myself into getting a shot of this, and I was doing a bit of online testing with it.
Yeah. That was, so APB then it was probably 2007.
Right, so that's when I've been there.
Because when I joined in 2004, we were working on Crackdown 1, and then maybe 2 months into my job there, we started APB.
So Crackdown was quite an ambitious game, wasn't it? Maybe a bit ahead of its time, what did you say?
Definitely. It was a great game, yeah, good fun.
Yeah.
Good fun to build, good fun to... I only worked on that project for a couple of months, but yeah.
Because I think, what was the deal with the Azure cloud? Was that the first time they were trying to push cloud technology to take up some of the compute?
That was Crackdown 3 though,
Right, was it?
Many years later. That was in 2013, 14. So Crackdown 1 was, just a single player co-op game. Yeah.
And then I guess then with Dave Jones, is that how did Epic start then? How did you get involved with Epic?
We started being involved with Epic. Always used Epic's technologies, like since when I joined the gaming industry. And then we started Cloudgine in 20.
And that was a company that was your company?
Yeah. So after 7 years into the gaming industry, myself and my best friend, together with Dave Jones, we decided to start a company, Cloudgine, which is when we started exploring Azure and all the cloud opportunities.
Ah, okay. So were you part of that then to start exploring? Right, okay.
Yeah, definitely.
And what made you think about that as a topic? Were you starting to see how the compute could be done in the cloud? Did you start to see that?
The idea started really from, again, game developers struggle to find compute power. And at the same time, you have clouds, like Azure or AWS or Google Cloud, where you have a virtually limited number of resources, like number of machines. So it just didn't make sense. You're struggling to get power, to find power, and at the same time you have this kind of a completely untapped ocean and pool of resources, compute resources. So Cloudgine was our take on it. We tried to build a technology that would just leverage the cloud resources, and essentially enable developers to do more, to use more power. So for, as an example, physics is a very computational intensive, like to do like an accurate physics simulation, you need a lot of compute power. So physics was like the first application of the Cloudgine technology. So from the get-go, from the early days of Cloudgine, even before starting the company, we got in touch with Microsoft. We knew Microsoft well, especially Dave knew Microsoft well from the Crackdown 1 days. They got excited. They were investing billions and billions of dollars in Azure back then. So it's the right fit. And that's how Crackdown 3 started. Crackdown 3 was essentially kind of the showcase.
Because I remember reading all about it at the time. There was a lot of hype about that.
Yeah. So for Crackdown, we did try to use cloud and our technology to basically build a fully destructible urban environment. The whole city was essentially destructible. That was an interesting.
And do you think in games like Battlefield, is that how they started to use that? Was a lot of games destructible?
I don't think that's the technology. So the adoption we were expecting for a few reasons.
Was it bandwidth a problem as well?
Bandwidth is part of it. Like that's actually one of the challenges we faced early on. As in, you can do a lot of simulation, but at the end of the day, the industry wasn't ready, and I would argue even today, the industry is not ready to do like full cloud gaming. Gaming entirely running in the cloud. So the game was running locally on your Xbox, on your PC, but the simulation was in the cloud. But the more you simulate, the more accurate the environment is, the more data you need to send over to your local device. So pretty soon it became a bandwidth issue. So we spent even more time than the simulation tech itself on figuring out ways of compressing the data and squeezing what would have been, probably 150 megabits per second worth of data to like normal bandwidth, 3 megabits, which is already super high by gaming standards.
And how do you feel then? See, when you talk about testing, just for people who may be interested in this, when you talk about ways to figure it out, is it all on a whiteboard, or do you think that might work, but I'd have to run it through the computer first? Is there a bit of both, or?
Both. Like we've definitely had some whiteboard sessions when we started, brainstorming ideas, and then next step is you think this could work, and then you do a little prototype. And we went through like a few prototypes around the Cloudgine idea until we find again the right the right fit, and then went for it.
And would you say then, I know you're a big F1 fan, would you say that, do you think the games developers and the people that work in silos in a sense, like, did you know about other games developers or they were thinking about the same, trying to solve the same problem, or did you know it was a race in a sense, if who could
Never
get it?
felt like that sense of urgency to a certain extent. I mean, it was new. It was a new area. A few months later, or almost at the same time, there was a new company in London that popped up, Improbable. They got like lots and lots of funding, like 500 million plus worth of VC money. So definitely they had more funding than us, but their approach wasn't. It's all one of those things. Yes, the vision can be similar, but the execution really depends and can change. So yeah, but never felt that. Okay, we're gonna die if we don't move super quick, kind of thing. No.
Because you'd have seen the roadblocks as well, right? So you'd have seen that it wasn't totally a solution that you could just solve. There was a lot of other things that were out with your control, right?
Exactly, yeah.
And I think then one of the stories, and I know you've told me before, but I'd love for everybody to kind of know this story with Fortnite, right? And obviously you probably hear that a million times, but could you tell me about the story about how Fortnite started and then that kind of moment when it kind of changed into what we know today?
Yeah. So that was basically in 2017, pretty much. Yes, that's when the game came out. So the game had been in development. Fortnite saved the world. The known battle royale game was in development for 7 years at that point, 7 years.
To get it to that point.
Yeah. So, but that was just to save the world. And that was before the acquisition. So Cloudgine got acquired by Epic in December 17. But we started going through due diligence, I think June, like summertime 17. So at that point they were launching Save the World. And then almost at the same time, what happened was PUBG was the most popular game at that point in time. Battle Royale, of course. So internally, like it was like over a barbecue. The story, I think, was a few people at Epic had a barbecue Saturday, Sunday, and one of them came up with the idea. We got like 7 years worth of content that we built for Fortnite, Save the World. Why don't we try to build like a version of Fortnite in the Battle Royale mode? So the very next Monday, essentially, 2 days later, 1 day later, they put, I don't remember exactly the number, but I think 10 people, 15 people in a room in Kerry. And then they just created the version, started working on that version. I think 6 weeks later, they launched Battle Royale. And the game started, breaking any record imaginable. And Epic was at that point a relatively small company, like hundreds of people. Don't remember exactly, maybe 400, 500 people. And then all of a sudden you have like a company like Epic, whose backbone has always been a real engine in technology. And yes, they're talking about dual role, they're game developers, they're technology providers. But so Fortnite wasn't, the level of success of Fortnite wasn't expected at all. And you have a big responsibility. You have this rocket ship exploding. You need to invest, you need to move fast. The opportunity is now. So that kind of completely changed. That's when we joined Epic at that point, because Battle Royale was launched in, I think, September 17. We joined in December. So we experienced the
growth of it. Quite an exciting time. Growth. And do you think the competitive element of that helped push that as well?
Not initially, I would say. Like they started looking into competitive maybe a year later.
Okay.
It was the first, there was no time to think about anything, literally, as it was keeping the game alive. Okay. And keeping the game healthy, keeping the game...
handling all the players. And how do you do that then? If you've got servers, how does that actually work? That, say, for example, you maybe have a server that will handle X amount of people.
Yeah.
Do you have to keep on upgrading the servers and making it bigger?
Exactly that. So each instance, each server, Fortnite server, hosts 100 players. And from the get-go, Epic rightly decided to use public clouds. That's a mistake we made on APB, by the way.
Okay.
And to be fair, we didn't have a choice because APB times was pre-public cloud.
Okay.
But that was definitely like one of the things that killed a game like APB, Real-Time Worlds. So Epic decided to go for public cloud from the get-go, AWS specifically. So it's just that really, just work with AWS, try to get a certain number of virtual machines in the cloud, and then we were running out of them pretty much every single weekend.
Wow.
As the player population grew, so did the demand for servers. But AWS were great at accommodating the growth. The technology that Epic had was multi-cloud, so we also had, I think, GCP as the fallback. As we're running out of machines, basically, in AWS, we would fall back to.
That's a big problem, isn't it?
It's a good problem to have, but a gigantic problem. And I mean, the first few days, the first few weeks, servers will go down because operating at that scale is incredible. You're talking about tens of millions of concurrent players. And then hitting the server at exactly the same time, especially when we were running like the big events, like Marshmallow, and the big concert.
Even now, if you go into a Fortnite event, I went on to an Ariana Grande one with my kids, we thought we'd go on, and you're waiting, and you're like, you're definitely
and from an infrastructure perspective, that's absolutely the worst case scenario. You're not spreading out, players.
Everybody at 8 o'clock.
Literally, at that minute, you have millions and millions of players trying to get in. So
but in a sense, you guys are they're creating that problem because you're doing more of those events.
Yeah.
Because I suppose you're signing deals with artists that want to come and do their gigs into it. Like I think Eminem was on it, Ariana Grande. I think everybody now, right?
Like a Star Wars, like launches, like the movie was launched in Fortnite. That was basically genius from Epic, really, to do this kind of a pop culture reference. This kind of a cross-contamination. That was definitely what made Fortnite.
Everyone's doing it now. I mean, you can get Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in Call of Duty now.
Yeah.
And even Destiny have kind of signed the Star Wars one. So I don't know if it's even a case of games have their cycles now, and at the end of the cycle they say, well, how can we monetize it? We'll get Star Wars in. We'll just, at the very end of it, we'll just...
I was watching Eurovision the other Saturday, and then you could vote from Roblox, apparently.
Oh, could you? Right, okay.
I just saw the message there, but I thought it was interesting.
And I think that's another conversation, I suppose, because Fortnite must have seen Roblox as a bit of a competitor, and as much as Roblox had their market, Fortnite almost have done the same now. You go into Fortnite, it's absolute marketplace, but people are using Unreal in Fortnite. Would you say?
Yeah. So Roblox started from the get-go as a creation platform. Epic Fortnite kind of transitions to become a platform over time, starting from a specific game, a specific narrative, a specific history and evolution. But then, more and more, Fortnite is becoming a creation ecosystem, a creation platform. So the challenge is actually saying there is a large number of people who just don't want to play games. They want to create things. So the challenge is, how do you enable users who are not, engineers, but to go through we're not capable of using something as complex as an Unreal Engine, for example. And then both Roblox and Fortnite are trying to solve that problem. How do you provide a kind of a creation platform?
And monetize that as well.
And monetize that, so you have marketplace around the creator economy. So it's a complex ecosystem.
Even watching my son play Roblox in that marketplace and what's popular and what's not in trends, the Roblox ecosystem, it's crazy of how much they get. Roblox snuck up on me. I remember seeing it a couple of maybe 4 years ago. My daughter was playing it, and it was this whole, the longer you spent on it, the more you would get. And I was like, didn't really catch on. But then now it's just.
Yeah.
And my son spent £100. Listen to this, right? It's my little boy. It's not his fault. But I had a look at my bank balance, and it was like Microsoft's £100. I was like, what's that? And I looked, and he clicked on the Roblox, and he got himself like, oh, I don't know how many he got from it. And I emailed them, but I think they were just like, no, it's like.
Yeah.
So I now have a secure way of they've been able to download it. But yeah, I mean, I think the numbers are scary when you think of Roblox numbers. Actually, there's so many brands that are actually creating for market now. They're looking at Roblox as a viable option to actually market their football club.
You know, Man City. I mean, if you look at the player, kind of the user base, they have, I don't know, on top of my head, but definitely Fortnite. Now it's probably almost certainly more, but when I left Epic a year ago, it was I think 300 million. That's more than like the population of the United States.
Yeah.
It is immensely valuable, and that is a kind of a young demographic. So brands are immensely attracted to it.
Yeah.
Brand awareness.
Eyeballs
if you can reach, like kids at that age, it's there's nothing as valuable. Probably.
If you've got, so basically, it's always funny because when you think to yourself, right, Fortnite, Roblox, you think nobody else is going to come out of the woodworks, but somebody always will, right? Where can you see it going then?
I think, yes, potentially, from a technology perspective, something new can come out. But if you look at what's really valuable, technology is not. They have a head start, starting from 300 million or more players. That's not something you can pay or buy.
No.
That takes years.
And a culture around it as well.
Yeah, and there is loyalty. And there is once you saturate the market, there is only so many people, right? Once you saturate the market, so it's not a matter of acquiring users, convincing users that your new ecosystem is more valuable than the one they're loyal to, where they have their friends and the social graphics. I think displacing either Roblox or Fortnite, I don't see that happening.
No.
I just genuinely don't see that happening.
No.
It's just
They're getting too big.
Too big.
And could one acquire the other?
I don't think so.
Don't be allowed. They're probably not be allowed, right?
Just different. Just there isn't much of an overlap really. Don't think so.
And it's quite, when you think about even the games industry now, it's like you don't even know who's going to pay X amount of money for a game, because my little boy would happily play Roblox more than he'd want to play any AAA title.
Yeah.
I think so I don't know if that's a scary place or not for the games industry or not. So I'd like to ask you now, because I think we also spoke about what your life's been like after Epic. Could you tell me a little bit more about what you're working on now then, the technology you're doing?
Yeah, so Epic, again, I left Epic in June last year. So since then, a few things really. I definitely was missing startup, generally startup life, and not a corporate kind of person. So I knew I wanted to go back to startup life.
What's it like about that? Do you think it's the decision making and making things happen? I mean, once again, you spoke about just 10 of you guys go and make that into a game. That's quite exciting, putting 10 clever people into a room to make something, right?
It's a combination of things. It's just that, the energy and then the magic that happens when there's literally nothing. You're starting from scratch. You have unlimited...
The grind,
very much the grind, and you have unlimited opportunities. And then, so that's part of what attracted me back to startup life. But also you get to a point in life, I suppose, where you value time more than anything else. Worked for a big corporate, it's great salary, great benefits, but
consuming.
It's consuming. You spend a substantial number of your time traveling a lot, I was working 10 plus hours a day. I was enjoying the process, but then you get to a point where, am I moving the needle?
Yeah.
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
And then you get to a point where, no, I feel like I can be more impactful, I can make more of a difference in a small team. Even things like giving back. Since the acquisition, always felt kind of not an obligation, but I feel like I want to give something back to the community. I want to give something back to people like myself. 12 years ago when I started the company.
Do you think that's an age thing? Do you think that's something that...
Probably age, probably where you are in life, both from an age perspective and...
So that's where you get the enjoyment from. Like, let's talk about getting that kind of work-life enjoyment. I was just going to say, I've done some esports tournaments with some kids at some primary schools, and the joy that they got from that, and think that was a real worthwhile project.
I think so. I think it has to do with, like, at some point you go through like early stages of your career where you need to prove yourself, you need to, you need to prove yourself. You're more kind of a career oriented, but then you get to a point where I feel like I've proven whatever I had to prove. So now which is liberating in itself. Now I can focus on what I really want to do, which is again help other founders. I've been helping like startups, kind of advisory and things, but even like making small investments. Which is again what happened to us. Dave made a small investment that literally changed our lives, and I feel like when I was at Epic, a company that I truly immensely respect, I will always love it. They were my dream company, and probably still is. But again, I felt like, do I make a big difference if I work with them, or if I engage with a small team that I can help, avoiding mistakes that we all made in the past and help them a little bit financially as well. So that's something I absolutely love. But at the same time, together with my previous co-founder, we had an idea for another startup. So in August last year, we started a new adventure, and then we are very much spending like 90% of my time on this now.
So that's always again, I wonder if it's to do with the creative mind, that you actually have to have that goal to drive towards. And when you don't have that goal, it's like sometimes like you complete a game, you're like, oh, what do I do now? But if you know what you're going for, that gives the drive to keep going, right?
Yeah. That's super important. I mean, I can't remember if we had this conversation when we spoke last time, but for that's actually like a big recommendation when I talk to founders. That's one of the especially like more advanced stages founders. Like I always tell them, think about the future, because if you have a successful outcome, make sure you know what's happening next, and find the purpose for the next stage of your life. Because that's basically what happened to me. I was a bit lost. You achieve what you wanted to achieve. You work towards for your entire life, pretty much. And then the day after the acquisition, okay, why am I waking up this morning? That was before I had a daughter. Now it's even more difficult if you don't have kids or anything. So why am I doing this? So you have to find purpose. That took me kind of a rediscovery journey. That took me a while.
And what did you do? How did you find that then? Because you can't make these things happen in your mind, right?
No.
What was it you think? What did you do to?
Yeah, it's personal. Like each person has will find their own thing, their own motivation. For me, it was a combination of things. Again, I enjoyed working for Epic, but at the same time, I got close to motorsport. So I started racing cars, and to me, that gave me
Sim
racing and real life racing as well. Yeah. So that put me completely out of my comfort zone, which is exactly what I wanted, like new challenges, and like everybody has different priorities, and yeah.
And would you think then, if you had to go back, right, and speak to young Maurizio and say, like, what other path I mean, obviously you've been really successful and you've enjoyed this path. Do you think if you had to start again, would you be a motorsport one you'd like to try and do? Like if you had to think of another career?
I don't think there is something I would change really. No, I probably do the same things.
Yeah, do the game, but I was wondering if you wanted to again, would love to be an F1 driver or a racing car driver or anything like that.
But that's not something you can choose.
No, I think
it's just a function of, do you have money? If you have money, then you can consider, like, that wasn't really an option.
So money and talent, that's a world champion.
100%. You need talent for sure. Like, they're all talented, but again, getting close to motorsport to realize that, like, the amount of money, because being in a car and spending time in a car is expensive. Getting good is a function of how much time, how many kilometers. I'm exaggerating, of course, but you can put a monkey in a car, and with enough laps, that monkey will be relatively quick. Of course, like you have the Max Verstappen of the world, they're just different planets. But to a certain extent, it's purely a function of kilometers. you drive, and which is exclusively a function of how much money you're willing to spend to do those kilometers, right? So it's just money. So yes, talent plus money is absolutely the only way to go.
And then, so you said you're a family man now. Is there any which way you would be like? Do you? I suppose I've got a little boy, two little boys and a girl, and I suppose just giving them things to try out and see what they like. And is that the way you kind of raise your kids, or you just let them see what they like and supporting that?
To me, that's what we were supposed to do. Like, don't force any decision. Just to me, is almost kind of a showing them the menu, like menu of life. Like,
absolutely.
Like, to try everything as much as you can, and then she will choose whatever she likes. Of course, I mean, I will have an opinion, but I'll try out. I'll start doing it already. I'm forcing myself to stay away from forcing any passion of mine. Just again, going back to motorsport. You see, like Jos Verstappen, Max Verstappen's dad, feels like you have that sense of unfinished business, and they project their almost failure. It happens
a lot.
Yeah, it happens a lot. So I'm very aware of that. And
it doesn't always look the healthiest relationships either, does it?
Definitely not.
No.
Yeah.
Cool. Listen, Maurizio, thank you very much for coming on, buddy. Really appreciate it.
Pleasure.
Take care.
Pleasure. Thank you.